And then there were 6 injuries to the Boston Bruins. That is still, the Bees come away from their tour of Canada 3-1. Plus, how will Sean Thornton's 15-game suspension hurt the team? That's all coming up on this edition of Bruins Daily TV. From Studio 73 at Suffolk University, Erika Lee here, joined by Tim Rosenthal, as always. Tim, little change of scenery than we were expecting this week, but I'm happy that we're here in the studio.
Well, we're here to celebrate 6 Bruins injuries, 5 Providence call-ups in the last week or so, 4 for Bobby Orr, 3 production assistants, 2 ugly sweaters, and another edition of Bruins Daily TV.
That's right. And here we are for our last episode of Bruins Daily TV in 2013.
How convenient, huh? So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year early New Year to you and to all of our staff here at Studio 73.
Yes, and to our viewers, of course.
Oh, of course.
So the
Can't
Bruins,
forget them.
No, of course not. The Bruins, as we mentioned, have been struck by the injury ninja. 6 actual injured players, as we mentioned, and then the stomach flu and the regular flu affecting the team for the last 2 weeks or so as well.
Well, thankfully, because I had the flu personally during the weekend, I didn't have to wear a mask in the Bruins locker room, and I think they're finally caught up, at least from the flu bug. Although Claude Julien did confirm Tuesday night after Tuesday's win against Calgary that he's a coach, not a doctor, so he can't comment on the flu necessarily. But injuries, they're still hobbling a little bit. You look at Louis Eriksson, there's no timetable for him to return right now. You look at some of the other injuries, Chris Kelly with I believe it was the tibia injury again. He's going to be on the shelf for quite some time. But on the bright side, Adam McQuaid is skating again, and we'll probably see him return sometime soon as well. So they're healing, yet they're still set back at the same time. It's quite odd.
But of course, we've got the call-ups from Providence, as we mentioned, to help the team out in the meantime. And now on top of that, it took 2 days for NHL's Brendan Shanahan to dish out a suspension to Sean Thornton. 15 games is what it ends up being. And of course, Thornton is appealing that suspension.
I'm very interested to see how this turns out. The first appeal is going to go to Gary Bettman. I doubt he'll overturn Shanahan in this regard, but there's going to be another step forward with that, and that's a neutral arbitrator. And I was always of the opinion that he'd get 10 to 15 games, probably closer to 10 than 15. But I think it's going to go all the way to the arbitrator to the end, and I do think he might have an argument definitely for a somewhat reduced suspension and more towards the 10 to 12 game mark instead of the 13 to 15. So definitely something to keep your eye out open for the next few days.
It's certainly possible, and of course the only other time this has happened so far this year was with Patrick Coletta, who was suspended for 10 games. It went to Bettman. He upheld that suspension. So no player has gone through this neutral arbitration yet. So if it does go there, this will be the first time that happens under the new CBA.
And Coletta had a losing case just based on his past history as well. And it didn't turn out well for him at the end because quickly after he returned from suspension, the Sabres put him on waivers, and he cleared that, so he's now back down in the AHL, where I believe he's now up for a season. So far, not so good for him. But Thornton, he doesn't have the history, and that's got to be something going for him. Brooks Orpik is also skating, albeit non-contact, but he's back out there, and maybe that'll play a factor into it as well, as we originally thought.
It certainly should. And of course, you mentioned the Buffalo Sabres. Luckily, the Bruins shouldn't be missing Thornton too much the next couple of games. They'll have 2 against the Sabres before they head down to Nashville. They'll take on Ottawa twice, and then the Islanders to finish out the year.
And then this week, you're looking at another matchup with John Scott. And if I'm Ted Nolan, the new Sabres coach, I would actually bench him. I'd scratch him because I think if he's out there, it's going to turn ugly, much like it did against Pittsburgh. And then some of the other matchups, you have Nashville in a tough Western Conference. They're doing all right, but they're having a tough time separating themselves in a very deep West. And then you look at Ottawa, they're kind of up and down right now, a little more up. And they're looking to bolster their roster a little bit. I think I heard that they're looking at another winner. And they have 2 very solid lines. Other than that, they're not very deep. But they're getting some much better goaltending as of late. Defensively, they're still an issue, but it's a division opponent, and opponent the Bruins shouldn't take lightly, especially since they already lost to him earlier in the year.
Very true. So when we come back, we'll tell you which Bruin does the team miss the most and who's the toughest guy on the team. That's next when Tim and I drop the gloves on Bruins Daily TV. Welcome back to Bruins Daily TV. Erika Lee here alongside Tim Rosenthal. Tim, it's time for us to drop the gloves for the last time in 2013.
Yes, and you notice I brought Snoopy on my side.
I
think
see that.
he's a good luck charm for me.
Okay.
Because I need it, though. I always win. You know this.
We'll see. We brought back our Zamboni this week, too.
So that
and they
might
switched spots for us.
That might be your good luck charm.
Perhaps. We'll see. In light of all of the Bruins injuries, our first topic this week again is about injuries. Now, which Bruin who's out right now do you think is having the biggest impact on the team?
I look at Louis Eriksson, that second line with Marchand and Bergeron. Yeah, they two still have chemistry together. But you're looking at Riley Smith moving up. He's for sure he's doing a nice job, but that chemistry with Eriksson seems to be missing a little bit. So definitely, I think Louis' presence is a little missed, and especially on the PK, where he's a pretty good defensive forward as well.
Eriksson is also my choice for who the team is missing the most, struck by injuries, of course. As you mentioned, that line seems a little bit out of sync, and they're definitely missing him on the PK. So, Eriksson, please come back soon.
Really?
Seriously. And more injury talk. Jarome Iginla dislocated his finger a few nights ago, and he came right back out to play in the second period of the game. And we've seen a lot of these guys play with injuries. Who do you think is the toughest Bruin on the team, past or present?
More recently, I would say Patrice Bergeron, when he played with the puncture line and broken ribs in Game 6 against Chicago. Obviously, it didn't turn out too well for him because he would have missed Game 7. But still, it was awfully courageous. And definitely, even though he didn't play with the long-term Gregory Campbell when he blocked the shot against Pittsburgh, and finished that shift with Craig Courageous as well.
Tim, of course, gets to answer first, so he always steals all of my answers because I also would have chosen Patrice Bergeron and Greg Campbell with those two injuries during the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Stanley Cup final last year.
I throw the punch, and you can't even counter. Great.
Unfortunately. Well, that concludes our Drop the Gloves for 2013. Before we go, we have to talk about Bear in the Gang's Christmas Spectacular. The Bruins premiered on bruins.nhl.com a few days ago. A lot of fun, as always.
Oh, it always is. Rene Rancourt, star of the show, and he certainly stole it, I think, even more so than the Bear. But it was quite interesting when you have Seidenberg and Chara and all them two skiing, and then Claude Julien in the microscope lens. I think that's something he wants to have for Christmas. And then Jarome Iginla sitting on the Bears' lap. So many fun memories and so many lighthearted moments that really, as just seeing hockey players, it's fun to see a different side of them, a more entertaining side for sure.
And all of it in 2 minutes and 32 seconds, of course, with really not a lot of chatter. It's just
that's
funny.
Definitely more impressive that they're able to do it in that short amount of time. And definitely, I'm sure the Bruins are getting a lot of hits on their website as we speak.
I'm sure they are. Well, super quick show this week. I'm sure that we'll have so much to recap when we come back. What were you going to say?
I said, speaking of quick.
Speaking of quick, what?
I said, speaking of quick.
Oh. Tim is confusing me this week. But I'm sure we're going to have a ton of stuff to recap when we come back. We're going to take a little vacation for Christmas and New Year's. And so we'll have 2 weeks off. Mm-hmm. And then we'll come back, and it'll be 2014.
Enjoy the sun while you're in Florida, by the way.
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to that after all the snow here in Boston.
I hope it doesn't snow as much as it has now. Maybe on Christmas Day we'll allow it having a nice white Christmas and all, but definitely not after that.
I hope not. What are you asking Santa for?
I'm asking Santa for one more Snoopy appearance, and we're going to give it to him right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Snoopy. Well, for all of us here at Studio 73, Tim Rosenthal and myself, wishing you happy holidays and a happy new year from Bruins Daily TV, and we'll see you next year.